Hello everybody, welcome to the studio. My name is Mel and I'm here to paint with you. So I'm really excited because if you're here, that means that you got the family safari box for September. And I'm super excited about it. It's the first in my monthly series of boxes. So we're gonna have some fun together. So the first thing I wanna do is just go through the kit and show you what's in here and what we're gonna do with it and show you how to get set up. But the first thing that we should do before we get ready to paint is make sure that we have a space clear. So moms or dads, adults in the room, you're gonna wanna make sure that we're painting on a surface that's not gonna get damaged by acrylic paint, which is basically liquid plastic. I do have some paper to protect your table surface, but it wouldn't hurt to put down a placemat or a plastic tablecloth. If you're painting on a countertop, we can usually clean those up pretty easy. Acrylic paint will lift off, but you don't want it getting in your wood. So make sure that you've got a spot cleared that's safe to paint and that you're wearing clothes that you can paint in. I'm wearing my favorite painting shirt. It's an old white shirt. You can see down here, it's just covered in paint. So pick a shirt that you're gonna use as a smock that you don't care if you get paint on, and get yourself ready. And when you're all dressed and you've got your spot cleared, get your kit and let's go. Okay, so are you ready? The first thing we're gonna do is open our box and see what's in it. Now, we've got some paper here. We're gonna take that out to protect our table. But first, let's look at the big envelope, because in here, we've got a little sheet with all the tricks and tips for getting yourself set up and how to do your painting. So we're gonna wanna keep that nearby. This waxy piece of paper you've got, you want the shiny side up. That's gonna be what we use as our painting palette, because then we can just save it and it becomes another piece of art. Let's see, what else have we got in here? We've got our safari mask, but we're gonna do that later in a different part of the video. What we're looking for is our gallery card for Safari Friends, and it's got a picture of our painting that we're gonna keep by us while we're painting. That will also help. We've got the string to our mask. So I'm just gonna put the stuff I'm not using back in my bag. So my safari mask and string go back in there. But I want to get my stencils out. You can see on our painting, our Safari Friends, we've got an elephant, a lion, and a monkey, or excuse me, a gorilla. We are gonna use some stencils to help us trace them. But we also made the stencils in black so that if you don't want to paint in the animals, if you're a little worried about that, you can always just glue these on and then they'll be just like they are here on the paper. So we've got our stencils. I'm gonna put this little wooden guy away for later. So let's get our business out here. We've also got our canvas, which I sent wrapped in some paper for you. We'll unwrap that. And then in our little bag here, we've got all of our paint and paintbrushes. We'll need that. So the first thing I want to do, whoops, losing my stencils here, set all that to the side. I want to take out my paper and I want you to unfold it and lay it flat on the table. It's going to protect whatever surface we're painting on. And now you've got an empty box, right? This little lip that goes down in here, like a pizza box, we're going to open it up. And instead of folding it down, we're gonna fold it up. So just fold it backwards toward itself. And it's gonna make a little shelf. Do you see that little shelf there? And now, if you stand the box like this, it's going to become your easel. And you can unwrap your canvas and set it right there. Okay, now we should have a better view down here on the table. So let's pretend that this is your canvas. We've got our paper. We're going to need, remember that piece of paper I said we needed? It's shiny on one side but not on the other. We want to use that shiny side up. That's going to be our painting palette where we'll set our colors and mix them. Oh, and my air conditioning is coming on, so you're going to hear a little bit of a whir. Sorry, I'll try to talk louder, but it's 90 degrees today and it's not going off. All right, so now I've got my paint bag, and what I want you to do is get your brushes out. We've got a big brush and a little brush. We're going to set those down on our palette. And then we've got our paint and some popsicle sticks. Let's just drop those all out there. I put 2 blacks in. I'm just gonna set one to the side for now. That's just in case we need an extra. But we've got some white, we've got yellow, we've got red, and we've got our black. And then you've got some popsicle sticks. So what I want you to do, we're just gonna open this one, take it off, make sure you set it with the paint side up so that we don't get any mess. Just take a little scoop with your popsicle stick and then tap it right there. And I'm just gonna leave my popsicle stick there so that I can use it again. And then I'm gonna put the lid on my paint, and we're gonna do this for each color. So I've got some black, but what I really need is the yellow, the white, the red, the yellow, the white, and the red. And I'm gonna get those out and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our yellow, red, and white. I've got my paint brushes right here. We've got a big brush that's kind of flat on the top, and then we've got a little brush that's kind of flat on the top. And those are their names, big and little, large and small. You also need to get an old plastic cup from somewhere, maybe a jar. This is my painting cup. And we're just gonna fill it halfway up with just some water from the tap. My sink is upstairs, so I brought it down here in a little bottle, in my swelled bottle. But here we go. So I've got my painting water, and I'm also gonna grab a couple of paper towels because we'll need those to dry off our paintbrush. So I've got those ready as well. So you've got a cup of water, paper towel, we've got our yellow, red, and white paint all ready to go. We've got our 2 paintbrushes, and you've got your canvas. Mine is the completed painting here, but I'm gonna switch it out in just a second. And once you're all set up like this, we are gonna be ready to paint.
Okay,
so give me, I am all set up here, and we see I've got my canvas, the example I've got here. Now you don't have the full-size example, but you do have that picture that I sent you. Let me grab it for you. So you might want to keep that nearby so you can see what's going on. We've got our water and paper towel and our palette with our yellow, red, white, and black paint and our 2 paint brushes. So let me get that out of the way so we can see what's going on. And the first thing I want to do is show you over here on the painting what we're going to work on first. We're going to work on the sky. And you can see it starts with a lighter yellow. We've even got a sun setting behind here. And then it turns into orange, and then it gets up to red. So we're gonna start down here and start with the lightest color and work our way up. And one thing I wanna point out is that these colors are not even lines. They're not stripes. We want them to blend. So the yellow slightly turns into the orange, which turns into a darker orange, which turns into the red. And the sky is very uneven. And that's on purpose because we don't want these perfectly straight stripes going on. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take my large brush, that's this one, that's got the flat top on it. And I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of white. And when I pick up that paint, I do it from the edge of the puddle. And you can see I've just taken a little bit there, not a whole lot. And what I want to do is figure out where my horizon line is going to be. That's where the sky is going to meet the land. And if I take my finger and divide my painting in half between the top and the bottom, it's about here. And if I divide that again, I'm just about halfway up, or a quarter of the way up from the bottom. So I've got my tiny bit of white. I'm going to find the halfway point between the top of my canvas and the bottom, and then I'm going to cut that bottom section in half to find the bottom quarter, and I'm just going to take that white in a line right across, and I'm sweeping the paint on, sweeping it just like we would sweep the floor, going back and forth. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I just want a little bit of white here to help with that yellow, to make it just a little bit lighter. So I'm just sweeping an uneven edge, going back and forth. And then when you're ready, You can take your brush, just sweep out the rest of that white, and we'll come over to the edge of the yellow and do the same thing. We're going to grab little bits of yellow here, about halfway up my bristles, and where I started with the white, I'm just going to come right across, sweeping. And it can get messy because I'm going to put the ground in later. So if this line is uneven, whoops, who cares? Doesn't matter. I didn't lock my easel in, and I guess I'm going to regret that. Y'all still there? Everybody okay? We don't want that to happen. And what I'm going to do is just keep picking up tiny little bits of white and little bits of yellow and streaking my way across. We can see our yellows come about a third of the way up the sky, and that middle third is going to be orange and work our way into the red. So we want to come about a third of the way up here, maybe even a little further. The higher up I get, the more I just grab yellow without the white. Let it be streaky, filling in all of this area, this middle third. Now, if you want it to be earlier in the sunset, you can keep your yellow up a little bit higher. It doesn't matter. You get to decide how that works because it's your painting. I'm just here to give you a little advice and guide you along the way. But think of it like pizza toppings. You put what you want on yours. Don't worry about everybody else's. They can do what they want. All right, so I've got my yellow. I've got a little bit of an edge here that's a little straight, so I'm just going to pick up a little more and move it up. And we don't need a lot of paint. Just sweep back and forth. See how I made these dips? That's going to be fun when we start adding that red. It's going to give us different shapes in our sky. So we want to get this yellow on. And if I'm painting faster than you, which I usually do because that's my job, you can always pause the video until you catch up. But you want to work your way from the bottom up and fill in this middle third and leave this just a little bit uneven. So if you need to pause, do it now. And when you turn it back on, I'll show you how to do the orange. Okay. Now my air conditioning is just coming back on, so I'm going to speak a little bit louder because we really can't turn it off today. It's just a little bit too hot outside. So I am going to get just a tiny, tiny bit of red on my brush. And I'm going to start streaking that little bit through the middle there. And then when my brush is empty, I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow. And I'm going to go back and forth using little bits. I don't want to pick up too much of the red at once because red is a really strong color and it will overpower that yellow very quickly. So I like to go back and forth. Or we could just make the orange by mixing a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red. So I take a scoop of yellow, put it in another spot on my mixing palette, grab a dab of red and stir that in. And I'll have orange. And I can also paint that directly on. Either one works. I like doing both, to be honest with you. I like to go back and forth to get all sorts of fun streaks. And then I like to come in and sort of fill in those big empty sections with some orange that I made. And sometimes I just dip the very tip of my brush bristles in the water and then sweep that across. I don't want it to be drippy, but I want to just get enough on there that it'll help spread that out. Because if I use big scoops of paint, what's going to end up happening is it's going to slide all over my canvas and make a mess. And I'm not down with that today. So I'm just trying to move my paint around and let it blend. You see how it's mixing together? That's sort of like when you let a bowl of ice cream set for a little bit and it gets milky and you start stirring it and more of it melts and all of a sudden you've got a milkshake in your bowl. That's kind of what we're doing, and we're blending. We're taking one wet color of paint and mixing it into another one. And when we just sweep back and forth, we end up with all those streaks. So we're just mixing that together. I'm going to make just a little bit more of that orange, a little bit of yellow, with a little bit of red. And this time I'm going to use a little more red so that the orange gets even darker. And we're going to take this up that middle third. Now I feel like I've got these little naked spots, so again, I'm just going to take a tiny bit of water on the tip of those bristles and let it blend across. Sometimes you can even give it a little scrub, and the tip of your bristles will work that paint into the fabric of the canvas, and that's how you get things going. So a little more water. Get one last little bit of orange here. Maybe streak some more down. Remember, it's a sunset, so all the colors can sort of be wherever we want them to. And I like to use this horizontal sweeping stroke because then it sort of resembles clouds in the distance, mixing in all those different colors. Keeps everything sort of level. If I were to use swirly strokes, it might look like there's a storm moving through my sky. Or if I were to use diagonal strokes, it could also make things look a little bit, I don't know, maybe more ominous, a little scary. But I'm going for a nice, sweet, sort of Lion King inspired sunset. So I've brought up all of that orange through that middle third, and I just have the very top of my sky left. Haven't even cleaned my brush yet. I'm going to sweep off all that extra paint, come over to the red, and now I'm going to start at the very top. Sweeping across. I want to work my way from the top down so that I can blend that red into the sections of orange that I want it to go into. If I start down where the orange is and work my way up, I'll have a lot of paint on my brush at that time, and it gets a little bit harder to blend. That's why I tell you, sweep off all that extra paint and then come through. You can even give it that little bit of a scrub, because that's what's going to help the paint blend so that we don't get stripes. It's what's going to let one color mix into the other. Just like that, back and forth. There we go. Keep working my way across, just getting little bits of paint at a time. Sweeping across, nice long strokes, smooth that out. Just fill in the rest here. Sometimes I'll go up and down to get paint into the empty spaces, but then back and forth, long strokes, smooth that out. Don't forget, we can always take a tiny dip into our water, get those bristles just a little bit wet, and we can streak that through. And I'm pretty happy with my sky like that. So I'm going to put my brush in the water, and I'm going to wait for you guys to catch up. At this point, I want to leave it alone. I don't want to bring any more red down. I'm pretty happy with it. So at any point when you're ready, you can come back and we're going to start working on our ground. So I will see you as soon as you're ready. So go ahead and pause the video. When you're done, put your brush in the water, and I'll see you in just a minute. We'll clean our brush and start working on that black ground. Okay, so we need to clean our paintbrush. So I want you to leave your cup on the table, hold it with one hand, and then we're going to take our paintbrush and gently sweep. Sort of a little bouncy back and forth sweeping. And I even give it a little press into my paper towel. Because I'm using black, I'm not really worried about any paint remaining in it. I just want it to be fairly clean so that it can grab my black. I don't want it to get all messy. Or messy, I guess would be the right word. Who knows? All right, so we're gonna take our clean, dry brush and we're gonna pick up our black paint. starting at the bottom, we're going to work our way across, going back and forth, sweeping our way up. Remember, we don't need to use a lot of paint. We need to use our paint wisely. So sweeping it, giving little wiggles to get it into those little white spots will help. Back and forth. When you're ready, get a little more and sweep back and forth. We're going to fill this whole section up, right up to the yellow, but I don't want you to go into the yellow, because if it's still wet and we get our black in there, then we can end up with a little bit of a mess. So I'm just sweeping back and forth, getting close. Use a little bit of water to help move that paint around like we did before. And when we get up to the yellow, what I want to do is make a line. But it's the ground, so it doesn't need to be a perfectly straight line, does it? There can be little hills, little bumps, mounds in the ground. We're going to put grass in there. So we just want to come right up to that yellow and bring that black across. Give it a nice sweep. And then we're going to put our brush in the water and take a little break. This needs to dry completely. So if you want to use a blow dryer and you can blow dry it, that will help. You can also put it out in the sunshine. That will help dry it pretty quickly. But give it a quick blow dry, or go take a break, have a snack, get your wiggles out. That's what I like to do. And when you come back, we're going to work on our tree. So I'll see you in just a little bit. For the next step, just so you know, all we need is some black paint and our small brush. We're also going to need our stencils for our animals. So I'll see you guys in just a little bit, okay? Okay, so by now your painting should be dry, whether we let the air do that or you hit it with a blow dryer. We want it to be dry so that we can use a pencil or a marker and trace around our stencils. That's the word, our stencils for our animals. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to paint in that tree. So we are going to need our small brush. You can see it's just got a little bitty little tip there. And we are going to use our black paint. So first, let's take a look at our tree. It comes up really tall, little bumpy on the edges there, and then it starts branching out. And you can see everywhere that a branch comes off, we have a V. And that's what we want to do. We don't want L's, we want V's in our branches. And that's going to make everything look very natural. But it's your tree. You can make it look however you want. You want lots of branches, put in lots of branches. You want to put space for a parrot or some sort of bird to be resting, put it there. We're going to tap in a few trees up, a few leaves up at the top of our tree. But for the most part, we're just going to go wild with it and have some fun. So the first thing I want to do is just dip my brush in the water and pat it dry just a little bit, because a little bit of water is going to help that paint move nice and smoothly. And our paint is thick. It's kind of like pudding, and we want it to be more like a creamy texture, a little creamier. Not drippy. We don't want it dripping, but we just want to loosen it up a little bit. Now I know I need to leave room for my animals, so I'm going to put my tree almost all the way over on the right edge. I'm just going to come in a little bit of space. You could probably hold up 3 or 4 fingers there, or measure an inch or 2. And what I'm going to do is just take that brush with some black paint and bring a line up, and then start to branch it off, just like that. It doesn't need to be thick yet. I can come back and make it a little bit thicker. But what I'm going to do is start letting these branches come up and out. So you can see I'm just putting in more V's so that my branches can just kind of move out. Some can cross over if you want more to cross over the edge. I'm going to show you a little trick. If I'm holding my brush and I push down, those bristles spread and my line gets wider. And then I lift up and my line gets thinner. So that's a good way. I start where the branch is supposed to be thicker, which is closest to the trunk. I push, and then as I come up toward the end of the branch, I lift up a little bit. Now, if you want to practice that, you can use your paper on the table, or you could even try it here on your little palette paper if you want to practice a few times. You could, if you really needed to, you could take a pencil and draw all the lines and then go over it. But I find that my tree comes out a little bit more natural looking if I just go with it. And I don't worry about anything being perfect, because I can always cover anything I don't like with some leaves. Work my way over. Just keep adding as few or as many branches as you like. Trying to remember to leave those V's. There we go. And I'm actually pretty happy with that. I'm going to move it forward a little for you. You can see all those branches spreading out. I want the top of this to spread out almost like an umbrella. And that way I can tap in the leaves and keep them all up toward the top. There we go. And now I'm just going to take my brush with some more black paint and thicken up my trunk a little bit. I don't want the edges to be perfectly even. I want it to have some texture. These trees are they're smooth but bumpy, if that makes sense. They have just sort of a bumpy edge to them. I don't want it to get too thick because I can't make it skinnier. So I'm going to go easy now. But it's about as thick as my pinky finger. And that's what I want. These trees are really slender. There we go. Now take a few minutes, work on your tree, and when you're ready, come back and I'll show you how to add the leaves to it. Here we go. We're going to put in our leaves. I've zoomed in a little bit so you can get a better view. And for this step, we're just going to use our brush like a stamp. I'm just going to push and lift. And I'm just going to start adding leaves at the edges first. And these trees have leaves that are in little bundles, little bunches, sort of like grapes. So I'm just getting some more paint. And I'm just tapping and letting that bristle hit. And I'm going to create these little clusters of leaves. I need to add one more there, I think. And I'm just going to tap in little bunches, nice and tight together. They don't all need to touch. We can just work our way across, tapping in as few or as many leaves as you want in your tree. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with that word today, you guys. Sometimes, I tell ya. Is there a word that you ever say wrong all the time? Or get mixed up? I don't even know what's going on with my brain, but leaves, trees, I don't know. They're different, but the same. Okay, we're just going to keep tapping in here. Little bits, as much or as little as we want. I like to just make some clusters, and I'll always come back and look at it later. I can always add more, but I can't take it away. So I'm going to stop there. And once I get my animals and my grass in, I'll know if I want to add more. So let's take a moment. You want to let that dry. So I'm not going to mess with it anymore, but what I am going to do is move my palette out of the way. And I am going to lay my canvas flat. And the reason for that is I want to be able to come in and take my stencils for my animals. I've got my elephant, I've got my lion, and my gorilla. And I'm just gonna line them up. I'll hold this up so you can see. I've lined them up. Now at this point, if you want, you can just glue your animals down and come back and I'll show you how to make the grass. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trace around the outside and I'm gonna paint them in. So again, if you have a glue stick or some school glue and you wanna just glue these animals on, you can totally do that. Just glue them on and leave them there, and once your paint and your animals' glue are dry, come back and see me and I'll show you how to put in the grass. But for those of you that want to sketch around these, trace around them and paint them in, I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to use a Sharpie so that my lines show up black and you can see them on camera. But you probably want to use a pencil for this. I'm going to hold my animal down and just take my pencil, your pencil, my Sharpie, and draw around the edges. I've got the feet lined up right there on the ground, and I'm just working my way around. Oh, here comes the air conditioner. I have to talk loud again. And sketch around that, and then when I lift it up, you can see the outline is there. So I did the gorilla, and now I'm going to do my lion. Again, I'm just tracing around the edge, holding it down with 1 or 2 fingers. Be careful not to put your arm in your wet leaves up top. We're just going to sketch our way around, just tracing the shape. And your shape is going to come out bigger than your stencil. That's just how it works because we're going around the outside. So it might look just a little bit bigger, and that's okay. All right, so we've got our lion, and now we're going to do our elephant. Last one. Sometimes at this point I get impatient and I start to rush a little bit, but I'm going to try not to do that today. Sketching around. All right, last one. Let me hold this up so you can see. Got my gorilla, my lion, and my elephant. And if you want, you can just leave those glued there. You don't have to fill them in. That's sort of an easy way to finish that step up. But I'm going to move this back to the easel and get my paint set up and show you how to do it. For this, we're just going to need our small paintbrush and our black paint. So I'll see you in a minute. All right. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that the bristles of my small brush are clean. I'm using the same color as before. I just don't want the brush to be really full of paint because when that happens, it looks a little goofy. You don't get a clean line. So remember, scrape it along the edge, get that excess water out, and then you can press it or sweep your paper towel, and that will get the extras off. Let's get everything out of the way here. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of black paint. Let's get you zoomed in a little bit more so you get a good view. And I'm just going to start filling in my animals here. I like to hold the brush closer to the metal piece and use it like a pencil. And just use some small strokes to fill it in. Now, this requires some fine motor control, so if you find it frustrating, remember you can always go back and just tape your black stencils over it, or you could use a marker to fill in this part. So if you find this a little tricky, there are other ways to get our goal accomplished. We can make art in many different ways, and I like to use whichever one works for me or for you at the time. Here we go. Just filling this in. I'm trying not to mess with the lines too much, because the more I mess with the lines, the bigger things seem to get. And we're just sweeping, filling in, using some small strokes here. I like to sort of go around the edges first. that way I can just paint in between. It's a little bit easier. Just like that. Almost done with this one. So what I want you to do now is just take your time. Get these guys all painted in, and once you've got them all painted in, come back. We're going to pause the video and you'll come back and I'll show you how we do the grass and then how we put the stars in the sky. So take your time. Remember, hold your brush like a pencil. If you make a mistake, do not panic. But don't try to wipe it away or cover it up. You've got to let it dry first, and then you can always paint around it. All right, you guys, so I'm going to pause, you pause, and when we come back, our animals will all be filled in and we'll start working on that grass. I'll see you soon. All right, so our animals are all painted in, and now we are going to make some grass. And we want to use our small brush, but once again, I'm just going to give it a quick rinse to try to get all that extra paint out. Because when the brush is full of paint, the bristles puff up like a Q-tip, and I want to be able to do some nice thin lines for my grass. So I'm just going to sweep it out. And you can see on your paintbrush, you've got a skinny side if you hold it sideways, or a flatter edge if you hold it so that the wide part is facing you. We want to use that skinny edge. And let me show you on the back of this paper what I'm talking about. If I hold the skinny side flat and pull down, I get a thick line. But if I hold the skinny side up and down, I get a thin line. Can you see? Flat gives us a thick line, up and down gives us a thin line. So I'm going to go with up and down. I've got a little bit of paint. And I'm just going to start below the edge of my land and flick up. And I want it to go in different directions. And I'm just overlapping the edge of my ground because it's all the same color. So it makes it look like the grass is coming out of that ground. Some I'll make a little longer, a little shorter. Might make little sections that are just really thick, right there, little bits in between the legs. Oh, and here I added some tails. I don't know if you noticed. Using that skinny edge on both the lion and the elephant, give them a little tail. That's too hard to get on the stencil, so we're just gonna go up, 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 flick, 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 different directions, wherever we want to put that grass in. Just keep flicking. There we go. Almost there. Some around the tree and right up to that edge. Just keep flicking. Up and down. Actually, just up. Just on the upstroke. There we go. And I'm pretty happy with that grass, so I'm going to give you a moment to get caught up. And when we come back, we're going to finish by putting the stars in our sky. Okay, is your grass done? I'm cleaning out that small brush. I've rinsed it out, got all that black out of it, and what I want to do is use the very tippy corner, sorry about the AC again, the very tippy corner to take a little bit of white and just barely touch and make a star. And you can make as few, oops, a little there, or as many as you like. Sometimes I like a little cluster together. Sometimes I like them to be a little bigger. I don't want too many because the sun is just setting. So we're just getting a few early stars out there in the Sahara. But a few little stars. Let me move it closer so you can see. Ooh, keep knocking that guy over today, don't I? There we go. Just a few little stars. And that's it, you guys. Your paintings are done. Safari friends, I had a great time painting. I hope you did too. And if you've got the kit, then let's talk about painting that safari mask. We'll do that in the next section of the video. So make sure you clean up your mess. Rinse out your brushes. You can just rinse them out with some water and let them dry, and then you can use them again. And your paint, as long as there's some left in there and you put the lid on it, just put it in that little baggie that it came with, put it in the refrigerator, and it'll stay really well for a long time. So I can't wait to paint with you again, you guys. Please send me pictures of your work, and I'll see you in the next video when we work on our safari mask. Okay, have fun. It's been great. See you next time. Guys, welcome back. So I want to just show you how our safari masks work. First of all, they've got these little punch holes where we can pop out the eyes, but I'm not going to do that until I'm ready to put the string in it. And then it's also got some tiny little holes right here on whatever animal you've got, and those are where we're going to tie our string in. But again, I'm going to leave everything in one place. I know it's really hard. You want to pop it just like bubble wrap, right? I always do. But we've got to leave them in there until we're done. So you've also got an elastic string that we'll use when we're all done painting it. So we can either paint it, we can use crayons, we can use markers. I've got some fun paint pens that I'm going to try. But basically all we need to do is color it in. And I'm going to let you decide how to color in your animal, because we've all got different shape of masks, different types of animals, and we all may decide to use different things. Some of you might want to use markers, others might want to use crayons, some of you may want to paint. So this is yours to fill in however you like, and I'm going to work on filling in mine. And then when we're done, I'll show you how to tie the strings on, okay? So let's get busy. I'll let you hang out and watch what I'm doing. So I am going to use something called Posca markers. They're new. I just got these new, and they're like pens, markers, but with paint. Alright, so I painted mine in lots of goofy colors, but you can do whatever you like with yours. I'm going to pop the eyes out, make sure those get in the trash, and then we've got these little holes. Can you see those right there? Toward the edge, and I'm going to pop out those little pieces so that I can put my string in. There we go. Now for the string, I'm going to tie a knot in one end. Just a simple loop, as close to the edge as I can. And then from the front, I'm going to feed that through one hole. Just like that. And that knot is going to hold that there. Then I can come over to the other side, and this time I'm going to insert it from the back, pull it up, and then tie a knot toward the end here. Whoops. There we go. And now it will stay. So let me put it on. There we go. All done. Send me pictures of what you look like in your mask. We can create a whole safari. Well, I hope you had a good time. We have one more activity left in the kit, and I'll make a quick video on how to do that. It'll be up next. All right, you guys, have fun with your masks. I'll see you later. Bye. All right, you guys, we have one more activity left in our kit. And just like our safari masks, you can really do this however you like. But what we've got are these little wooden cutouts, and I've got a lion here. Now, you can take a marker, you can take your paint, and paint this in however you like, whether you've got a lion or a parrot or a monkey, or I don't even know what else is in there, a zebra, and paint it in however you like. And then when it's done, you've got this little piece. It's got a notch, and our lion has a notch, or your animal. And we're gonna slide those in, and they're gonna interlock. And then it'll just stand up nice and flat on your table, on your desk, wherever you like. So have some fun painting with this. Again, send me photos of your stuff. I'd love to see what you came up with. And that's it for our September Safari Kids Box. So I hope you had fun. I can't wait for you to see what's coming up in October. All right, you guys, happy painting. I'll see you next time. Be safe.